Welcome, and thank you for standing by. Today's call is being recorded. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. All participants are in a listen-only mode until the question and answer session of today's conference. At that time, you may press star 1 on your phone to ask a question. I would now like to turn the conference over to Kaneen. You may begin.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks everyone for joining as we give you an update on our latest code base update on data.census.gov. Just a quick outline. I'm going to give you a little bit of background, give you a current snapshot, and with that current snapshot, also how to use the site with a live demo. And then with a live demo, we need to follow it up with some tips and tricks. It is a developing site, and also to be able to give you some nice screenshots that you can take back with you. A little bit on looking ahead, and then a chance to do some Q&A. So as you know, the Census Bureau has a lot of data, and with that data come a lot of different tools that allow for a lot of different ways to disseminate and release data. The tools allowed for individual estimates like the pop clock, amazing mapping services like Census Business Builder, or applications that are used by legislators, staffers, and constituents on the makeup of a district in my congressional district. Most of these tools are very, very popular, but when you go to census.gov, you aren't able to easily search for these tools, and especially not the content within the tools. So feedback we get from data users ranges from people who love our different applications and tools, mostly because they're aware of them and they are leaning towards the more expert data user. But we do get a lot of people, especially the novices and people who are unfamiliar with census.gov. They give us a lot of feedback on being very frustrated because they've gone to census.gov and they find web pages and they find PDFs about surveys and data, but they can't find the actual data. So based on this overwhelming feedback, several years ago we began the process of creating an enterprise-based dissemination system, which basically means that dissemination being streamlined from across the entire Bureau and allows for data to eventually be accessible off census.gov. So we aren't trying to take away your tools, but we are trying to take the best of those current tools like Census Business Builder and its great mapping software and have those mapping features available to all data, not just what's within the tool. So resources are always tight throughout the government as well as the rest of the workforce. So we need to be smart about how we're using our resources. So we need to make sure that we're reducing any redundancies that we have, limiting operational costs where we can. And having multiple tools means multiple reviews, deliveries, and validations by the data providers. So in enterprise dissemination, it's one platform, meaning that we have one delivery, but multiple ways of disseminating. So this before and after picture that you see here illustrates this idea of streamlining deliveries while still allowing for all sorts of ways of disseminating, from mapping to tables to single estimates. So, and finally, it's important to provide a greater access to our API, which is the foundation of the new dissemination platform. We'll talk more about that right now. So by far, one of the biggest questions that I get from data users, particularly those that are familiar with American FactFinder, is why can't you do all of these changes using AFF as the basis? Because what they tell us is that since AFF has been around longer, it's more refined, and data users are more used to their functionality. So the answer is that AFF is a great dissemination system, but our vision for the future of census data is based on the API. The API allows for cells of data to be pulled individually as a table or as a group of variables, where AFF was solely table-based. When someone searched for the poverty rate, AFF returned several hundred-line table. The API allows for one single poverty estimate to be returned, as well as the table if requested, and can also go across geographies and so on. It's this flexibility using the API that's the real power. So taking a look at the diagram, the API is clearly the heart of this platform. utilizing data, metadata, and geospatial services, and then releasing those data and services through census.gov and tables, but also through apps and data visualizations. As a reminder, since we're still developing the platform, we're not ready to integrate with census.gov. The preview site is data.census.gov. So back to this. The AC at the very top of the green part, the Census Bureau hosts the API not only for ourselves but also for our third-party customers. Those third-party customers pull our data into their own applications and their own dashboards. And with the API being the foundation of this new dissemination plan, we're working to reach more developers and making the API easier for all our users. So knowing how much data the Census Bureau has, you can certainly understand what a massive undertaking this is, not only to transition our data from AFF to other methods of dissemination, but also working to incorporate more data and content. So we know we aren't finished. We know that we have a lot of work left to do, but using the agile process of short spurts of building, then sending out for review, sending out for comments, we hope to get things out to the data users regularly for a customer-driven experience. All right, so a current snapshot. So as a developing site, there we go, as a developing site, not all of our data and content have been migrated to this site yet. In fact, we only have a portion what's in AFF. But here's a list of what data are available for American Community Survey. The blanks mean the data has not yet been migrated, and the dash means that the product was not produced that year. But please note that this reflects only what's in data.census.gov. The API will eventually have all the data from AFF, but data providers have chosen to release data from 2010 and later on data.census.gov. So all data prior to 2010 will be available in the API. All right, so here's what's available for decennial. So we have SF1 as well as both 113th and 115th Congress. We still definitely have more work to do with decennial 2010. And for our economic data, we have most of the suite of Economic Census is available for 2012, and along with 2012 to 2016 county business patterns, some non-employer statistics, and the 2012 survey of business owners. So here's some of our upcoming milestones. So this summer, we're going to have our first data released exclusively on data.census.gov. There are some smaller releases from the economic surveys and programs. We have non-employer statistics that's coming out later this month, and then public sector, and then also including census of governments later this summer. And we're also this fall, but beginning in September and going through December, we have major releases with the 2018 American Community Survey as well as the 2017 Economic Census. And then finally, in June we'll be working towards the retirement or the final retirement of American FactFinder. We will not do that until, and turn off the site until we have all of the data migrated over. So just want to make sure that everyone's aware of that. And we'll be keeping this up until June, but only as an archive. So we've said that no new data will be released. In fact, today was the last release of new data on American FactFinder with the release of the population estimates. So having this around a little bit longer helps us, give us some time to be able to migrate some of these last data sets over, but it also gives you a little extra time to continue to learn the data.census.gov site, but also to be able to go back to AFF for some of those more complex data that we're not accommodating yet. All right, so I want to show you the highlights we have from our latest release that we had last week. So we did a lot of work for search experience. So we have featured statistics by some select topics as well as curated tables to improve relevancy. We've improved our faceted filtering for a quicker scrolling experience. We've done a lot of work on our geography filters and advanced search. We now have a dual path that I'll show you, and then show you where some slides that can kind of break it down a little bit easier for you. Some other things, some toggles, and some graying out for when things are incompatible. Also available for tables is a download link. The download link is back on the table results page. We had moved it, and we got a large outcry that we had taken away the download button, so it's there. We just put it back where we needed to have it originally, and we've also added the feature to do multiple tables. We've also have a link to the FTP site, some mapping updates, particularly that connection between your search and the mapping, or tables to the mapping, and some pseudo geographies, what we call those collections of geographies. And then also some improvements to the economic tables with some additions of some product codes. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a demo really quickly. Let me pull up the site. Give me 1 minute. All right. So here's the site at data.census.gov. This is a live site that anyone can access, not just within the Census Bureau, but it's available now. And first, I wanted to highlight that there's two ways of looking and to begin your search on the site. First, it's right here, the single search bar, or you can use an advanced search. And the advanced search is more of that faceted filter or drop-down experience that some people are more comfortable using. So we'll start with the single search bar. Type in an insured in Charlotte, North Carolina. That site. And as you'll see, we're going to our all results page, which is the site that shows not just the individual data with tables, but also right here we have our feature results, which gives the percentage without health care coverage in Charlotte, North Carolina. Also allows for tables, maps, and web pages. And then right here to the right is our what we call our geographic profile, which if you put in just a city, then you'll be prompted if you'd like to just kind of see an overview of the area. So we give our top 4 key statistics from data users at the Census Bureau, and then from there we give you some basic, rest of some basic estimates in a visualized way. You can also jump down to things on the left-hand side. So we're going to health, which pulls up disability. So it gives you the disability, the percentage of the disabled population in Charlotte, North Carolina. Also gives you, for some reference, what the disabled population in the United States is. And then gives you, of that 8.7, gives you the breakdown of the different types of disabilities. So that's kind of something that's a neat way of looking at things if you're looking at a geography. So I'm going to go back, show you this key statistics. So you can access tables by clicking on the tables, or you can actually click from here, from that feature result box. And then from here, I wanted to show you a few things. So one of the things is that you are able to move and expand the site. We do have some really long labels. And when we do have those ellipses that are right here, those little dots, then if you go to that cell, it'll show you what the actual label is in full. Or of course you can also expand it if you'd like to. So one of the features that we put back is a download feature. So the button is right here. If you click on that, this actually allows you to choose more than one table. So if you were to select both tables, go back to download selected, click on that, and it pulls up a panel to have the selected tables. So you can take them in, you can add different ones, and then from here, press download, working on the file, download now, And from here, this is an example of the download file that you've come up with. So that's something to look at. We can close this download. If we go over here to customize table, this is where you can really manipulate and make change some things with the table. So if you click on the chevron, the down chevron, it'll open up this panel. From here, you can change or add geographies. You could also change the year. So we had it 2017. We could change to 2015. You have to click off that. You can only have one at a time. So if you wanted to go back to 2015 or change the year, you could change the estimate data set, so from 1 to 5. We've updated our table display to show when there are margins of error associated with an estimate, that shows automatically. Before they were hidden and you would have to apply them, so you can turn those on and off. You can also hide and filter and sort if you want to kind of manipulate the table display. One thing to be aware of is that when you do manipulate the table, if you go over and then download it, you do download the original way that the table was produced by our data providers. We understand that you would like to have customized table download, and we're looking into that, but just so that you're aware, don't want anyone disappointed. So again, you could go to the download from here for the single table, and then here you can go to view the table notes. All right, so I'm going to clear that, clearing it by going to this upper left-hand icon. Then I'm going to go into an advanced search. So a single search, we're going to break down some kind of best practices when to use the single search and then when to use the advanced search. But definitely when you're doing multiple crosses or multiple geographies, it's a good idea to use the advanced search. So in here, I'm going to choose my, it was already chosen for me, but I'm going to choose the year for 2017. And then I'm going to go to topic, and I'm going to choose disability. Then I'm also going to choose the cross with earnings. So then I go to income and poverty. So income and earnings, and then choose the earnings individual. As you've noticed, and we've been discussing past webinars, the topics the topics that are originally from AFF have been changed. Also the topics from census.gov. So we've merged them together. We've created a whole new topics page because as ultimately an integrated site, we needed to make sure that we were all using the same topics in the same way. So some of the things and some of the ways that you've been finding things in the drop-down might be a little bit different. So please go in and familiarize yourself. Pay attention to those changes, and it'll help you when we have those new data releases. So I chose earnings individual. Then I'm going to go to the geography. Now we talked about the geography being different. So there's two different paths for the geography. The first one is what it's defaulting to right now. It's showing these summary level codes. So some of those are very, very helpful, especially when we scroll down to like the AIAN groups or some of the other more technical groups, and you're not exactly sure which one you're choosing. So those, if you are familiar with the codes, this might help you. Also, it's grayed out when it's not relevant. So a lot of these are from decennial, but we chose 2017, so those things are being grayed out. So I'm going to take this off to show you a different way to look at some things. So these are some of these roll-ups of some places. So I'm going to look at county, and from county, I'm going to choose North Carolina. And then from here, I'm going to choose this one thing to show you right here is this geographic component. You're able to click on and off so that it shows the county, but then it also shows the county by rural and then the county by urban if you're interested in those components. You can definitely take them off, as I'm doing right now. And also you can scroll. Our scroll is a lot faster than it was before. We definitely had a time making sure that those it was taking so long, especially if you were looking at places or counties like Texas and all 256 counties. It was taking about 2 minutes. So the last we've checked, it takes about 20 seconds, so definitely an improvement there. But I want to show you Mecklenburg, so Mecklenburg County. So we've added that. If you scroll down a little bit, you can see in the search query what topics have already been chosen. So we chose disability, earnings, and it's by Mecklenburg County, North Carolina for the year 2017. So after that's been chosen, I want to go down and get my MSA. So you scroll down to the Metropolitan Statistical Area and click on that. This is for people if you're not exactly sure which one you should be choosing. They default to the most common ones, or you can do this where you can look at it with the MSA all within states. But I'd like to see the MSA of just in general. So I'm going to go and do a search and do Charlotte. And Charlotte, Concord, Gastonia comes up, and I'm going to click on that. Scroll down, and I can see within my search query that it's been accepted. I can actually view the query, and if you look, it's what we call CHIPS. Down here for disability earnings, you can definitely go in and click on and off if you'd like to take something out. But from there, I like what I have, and I'm going to view all results. All right, so this pulls up table B18-140, median earnings in the past 12 months by disability status for Mecklenburg County, and then also Charlotte, Concord, Gastonia. So from here, I wanted to show you one other thing that you can see because it's a base table, that B18-140. So if you go down to a customized table, and I showed you all the rest of these, but this is the one thing. Under download, there's a link for more data. So if you click on more data, it gives you a link to the FTP site. So if you continue to the site, it'll take you to the site that we have on census.gov for the FTP. It's a really nice connection and getting us closer to that final step where we want to be fully integrated with census.gov. So that's just one step closer. All right, I'm going to clear my search and show you something else. Looking at advanced search, I wanted to show you that we now have some product and service codes that are available under in our economic data. If you look and just pull some quick motorcycle, view all results, and then from here, this table. I'll click it one more time to make sure it's going to come up. And I know we have a lot of people on site, so we can, if not, we can go back to the all results page, clear that. We could check it later. And then the final is to look at veterans. I wanted to show you those mapping features real quick. Veterans, all counties in North Carolina. We want to view this by a map, so we'll click on the maps. And from here, it does show that we have the connection between the tables and the mapping feature. Before we didn't have that, so we're definitely glad about that. Also, if you see this doesn't have full coverage, it's in the 1 year, so we want to click on the 5 years, so we see the full coverage for the state and the counties. Something else we can do is change data by variable, so it allows you to look at all the different individual lines within the table, and you can change it from there, change the estimates on the spot. We also have a way to clear the geographies right up in this corner. And then we also have a download feature. So the download actually lets you go and take that table and download the actual table. Unfortunately, we don't have download of the map yet, but we know, we've heard you. We've heard that you'd like to be able to download the map. But we just want to show you those updates that we have right now. The last thing I wanted to show you really quickly on the front page before we head back into the slides is our release notes and FAQs. Been talking about how this is a developing site, so things aren't going to be 100%. We're trying to get there, and based on your feedback, we're slowly getting there, but this is something that's very important, our release notes and FAQs. It gives you the latest information on data.census.gov, including the data sets that are available, and some really helpful FAQs that might be able to answer some of your questions that you have. You're always welcome to send us an email at feedback@census.gov, but this might be able to help you a little bit. All right, I'm going to go back into my slide deck and finish where we left off. Where did we go? Current slide. All right, so from there I wanted to be able to show you some of the individual slides for that search experience, for those updates that we've had. So the first we went over is that search experience. So we now have the featured results, that quick stats for selected topics, and then also the curated results, which are sometimes up to 3 tables, and the unification between the featured results as well as the curated tables. We talked about having 2 options to find the featured, to find a result. So you can either go in that single search bar, type in veterans in Virginia, or you can do an advanced search where you go through topics and choose population and people, and then veterans. Then you can also choose by state and Virginia. The faceted filter, we gave you an update that we're very happy that that scroll is just a lot faster. It's pulling 100 at a time instead of 10 at a time that it was before. Also, we talked about the different geographic paths. So to select your geography, you can either go through the summary level, where if you know those summary codes like 320, you can choose those and make it a little bit more direct for you. So the 320 gets you data for the portion of the Minneapolis metro area within the state of Minnesota. Or number 2, this path allows you to have more of an exploration of the geography if you're not 100% sure which one you should be using. So it slowly kind of walks you through. So you take off the toggle of the show summary levels. You choose metropolitan statistical area, and you choose the Minneapolis, St. Paul, Bloomington metro area, and you get the data for the complete Minneapolis metro area. You could also, instead of using those default ones, you can also look within other geographies. So this middle panel right here, you can click within other geographies. In this case, we want to take state, choose Minnesota, and then the Minneapolis, St. Paul, Bloomington area part, but this time you just get the portion of the Minneapolis metro area that's within the state of Minnesota. So that's some of the ways. Excited to get your feedback of checking this out and seeing what you think. A few other things is that we've grayed out areas that aren't being used, exactly what we talked about, things like in decennial areas and that type of thing. And you can also search by filter panel. It helps jumping to things like San Antonio, New Braunfels, not having to scroll. You can just jump to those areas. Showed you about the new toggle for geographic components. You could turn those on and off if you'd like to see some there, a county by rural or urban. If you're not sure what that is or don't want to use that, you can turn that off and just choose your county directly from there. Also, our download feature, not only do we have the download button back on the main table display page, but we also have the ability to download multiple tables at once. It was definitely something we heard a lot of feedback about. So we're excited to see if that meets your needs there. Also, some smaller table display improvements, changed the width a little bit, added an area to be able to view the tables, the full table label, and then also the ability to switch on and off the margins of error, and then having the margins of error as default. The next thing is that more data feature, that more data button that allows that link to the FTP and the Census website. Just one more integration point as we're marching towards integrating with Census.gov, lets you be able to see the full tables in the table display or on a mapping feature, but then also being able to go to the FTP if you'd like to work with the data from there. Our mapping improvements now have the ability to do our collections of geography, so population, all counties in North Carolina. Also having the table mapping layer controls on the site, and that ability to be able to change the data variable on the site. And then also, one I forgot to show you, once you have those collections of geographies, like all counties in North Carolina, you can then individually go in and add some additional ones. So maybe the surrounding state you'd like to see, you can add those as well. And then here's that Clear Geo button and the table download. Last thing I wanted to show you is for those product and service codes for 2012. Please take note that that is just for 2012. In 2017, as I understand, their new product line is going to be different and a different code base, but this will be the way that you access those 2012 product line statistics. And then also something, view large economic tables. We have some very, very large tables with a lot of rows in it. And here's some indicators that allow the data user to know that more tables are being pulled with that orange indicator at the top, as well as at the bottom. It shows you what row that you are on. All right, so some tips and tricks. That's the new stuff that we've been working on. But I wanted to remind you, these are some of the things we've shared with you before, but just as a quick reminder, for single search, those quick wins are those simple statistics. So a topic and a geography, health insurance in Arizona. Great results that way. Also in profile, if you just type in Arizona, there'll be a drop down and you can click on that for the Arizona geographic profile. Also NAICS. And here's an example of some ways of searching groups of tables. So for comparison profiles, if you use the shorthand of CP, those ACS comparison profiles, all 5 of them will show up. If you are interested in getting a collection of a certain type of topic for ACS data, for in this case, we have the B27, which are tables for health insurance, those detailed tables for health insurance. By putting B27 before you did B27 in a wildcard, you don't have to include the wildcard. All of those, because of the way that we do our roll-ups, all of those distinct and individual tables will come up. So if you're looking for the breadth and the collection of detailed tables, but for health insurance, that's a great way to go about finding those. And then also, if you're looking for a specific table, you can type that table ID in and that table will come up. If you have a table that also has an A through I associated with it, those tables will come up as well. Searching by NAICS is a great way to use a single search bar as well. So in this case, we put 4451 and then all counties in Maryland. And we got the county business pattern table coming up for grocery stores in all counties in Maryland. Now with the advanced search, you definitely should use that for your more complex searches. specific geographies, like specific tract level, those collections of geographies, all places in the United States, what we've been using, all counties and states. And then also multiple cross-tabulation. So if you want to use health insurance by full or part-time worker, and then by sex, those are some great ways to use it. I skipped one at the top. If you'd like a specific survey, you can also request that specific survey. And then finally at the bottom, the detailed population groups, if you're interested in those. The advanced search is the way you access them. So one thing just wanted to remind you is that, again, just another plug for the topics. The topics have changed, so please familiarize yourself or you won't be able to find that it's not necessarily going to be in the same place that it was in AFF. So I wanted to show you some quick things about accessing distributions of basic race data. So if you go to race and ethnicity, and then you choose Asian, and then the pop-up of Asian, then it would pull up the specific tables by Table D, where you would get a distribution of the Asian population. However, if you were looking at the characteristics of a detailed population, you would go to, and this could be optional, you could choose your survey first of choosing the one-year population estimates, ACS population estimates by selected population profile. And then you could go to your topic. You would choose either the population and people, so ancestry and country of birth are under populations and people. Race, tribal, and Hispanic origin are under race and ethnicity. So let me quickly show you. Here's ancestry. It's under population and people. And then after you click the ancestry, those codes will then come up, and then you'll be able to see SO201 by that detailed population group. This is how you would find country of birth. You would go to population and people, native and foreign born, and choose foreign born. And then the race and Hispanic groups, choose race and ethnicity. And then if you wanted to drill down a little bit deeper, you could choose American Indian, Alaskan Native, and then you can choose Navajo specifically. And then you can go and choose that actual Navajo tribal grouping alone or in combination. Couple things to keep in mind, because these are the only detailed population groups that we have available are the ones from the ACS 1 year for 2016 and 2017. Because of that, you don't have a lot of coverage there. The threshold for ACS 1 year SPPs, it must have the minimum of 500,000 people in the geography, and then at least 65,000 people that's in that specific population subgroup. So a lot of times you see a lot of graying out. But once we have 5-year SPT AIAN and also the decennial detailed population information, then those things will start fleshing out a little bit more. All right. So I wanted to look ahead. So as we're marching towards the bigger releases of the 2017 Economic Census and the 2018 American Community Survey in September, those two will be released exclusively on data.census.gov. So our main focus for development until September is performance. So obviously performance in a system is always a concern. The ACS 1 year has the largest amount of people accessing the site in 1 day. So the ACS 5 year is more people collectively, but the 1 year typically has the most people just in that 1 day. So we're working on improvements for our performance to make sure that we can handle that kind of load. Those things include acquiring additional hardware for better performance and additional capacity, and also re-engineering the code base for efficiencies, and also improving our caching methodology. We're also working on some search relevancy improvements. Search relevancy has been doing a lot on the back-end work, And we're eager to push out our rebuilt entity recognition. Entity recognition is the system's ability to take the search text and identify an entity like a topic or a geography. We're also partnering with data providers to validate the featured results and the curated results. And finally, our current search has been focusing on pulling relevant data in single estimates, tables, and maps. But we are working on a proof of concept to be able to also search on unstructured content. And that unstructured content really means like web pages and PDF that's searchable on census.gov. So that's one step closer to that integration. We have heard you. We know that those collections of geographies are sorely missing from our geography hierarchy. We only have a handful of them. We know we need a lot more. And, but unfortunately, we are focusing on 1 year right now. We will have the collections needed for the 1 year release, but the main part of when you're going to need those collections are for the 5 year. So we're trying to get them as soon as we can, but they will at least be coming in the fall to be ready for the December release of the 5 year ACS. So please don't pull your hair out. Go in, check the site. If you normally use all tracks in a state, we don't have that right now. So just use maybe all counties in Texas because in a state, because we really want you to be able to use the site, and some feature or lack of functionality shouldn't keep you from preparing yourself. But when you actually need to go in and use the data for all of those tracks, go ahead and use American FactFinder until we have that functionality in. That's why we're keeping it alive, is that archive system. So a couple more customer-driven requests that we're working on. We don't know when we'll have those available. We would like to have them in the next few months, but we've heard you. We know that you're interested in the ability to cut and paste from a table and put that then into an Excel. Also to download and print an image of the table. So specifically, I know you'll like PDF. Not sure if that's possible, thinking that maybe we could have some other way of being able to download or print an image, even if it's even if it's a workaround. But we're still looking in that, and when we have some information, we'll circle back with you. Also, the ability to freeze the first column when scrolling to the right. And then also you're talking about the ability to toggle quickly between years. So right now you can toggle between years, but it's under that customization, and it's not easy. It's not as seamless and quick as it was in AFF. We know that you're very much interested in that. So those are some of the things that we're working on. Don't know if this slide right here, this customer-driven request, will be available this fall, but we'll circle back and let you know. Most importantly from this is, how do we know that these are the features people want? So it's because our feedback tells us. We get lots of feedback from lots of different places. So we have those 40-day development cycles where we then allows for feedback review and then incorporation of that feedback and then developing again. So our feedback is collected from national conferences that we go to, state agencies and affiliate meetings like our state data centers, webinars just like this one and other outreach, and then our internal stakeholders and data providers give us lots of feedback and comments. And then we definitely get a lot of email from the CEDSCI, CEDSCI.feedback@census.gov emails. We encourage you to take a look at this new site and send us your comments. And then finally, we also hear from our usability sessions. So that's our benchmark sessions that every time we have a release, we have in-house, we have our usability sessions that come in, and we have novices and also experts that go through a series of questions and see where people are landing on that. So from this site, just showing you that it's an overall process of collecting our feedback, and as you can imagine, we do have lots of feedback that we need to compile, review, and float for prioritization. It is a very time-consuming process, but we are committed to getting you the dissemination system that you want and that you need. So here's just the one last poll for your feedback. Please take a look at the site at data.census.gov and give us comments at sedsi.feedback@census.gov. And then if you have any questions or feedback for the media, please contact directly our Public Information Office at pio@census.gov or use the number at 301-763-3030. And for the public, if you have questions, please contact our sedsi.feedback@census.gov. We'd be delighted to hear from you and hear all of those great comments that you have for us. And with that, Operator, I think we're ready for some questions and answers.
We will now begin our question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question, please press *1 from your phone and unmute your line. Please speak your name clearly when prompted to be placed into the queue. Again, if you would like to ask a question, please press *1. One moment as we wait for any questions.
Okay, as we're waiting for those questions to come in, I just wanted to put a plug in for our FAQs and updated notes. We have 16 new FAQs, so if you could check those out, they might be answering some of the questions that you have. And then also, put a plug in for our usability tests. So we do on-site usability tests with our human factor research group. We're always looking for people with previous experience with data manipulation, preferably census data, but not necessarily. The length of usability session is 1 hour. You are compensated $40. And if you're interested, please contact Kevin at the name and number below.
Our first question comes from Bill O'Hear. Your line is now open.
Thank you, and thanks for the presentation. When I look at census data, I'm almost always looking for children, I mean less than age 18, or some sort of them like 0 to 4 or 5 to 17. What's the best way for me to make sure the tables I'm going to be getting include data for those age groups?
So I think most of our tables on children are collected within the tables. So if you either use the advanced search and looked under families, and I believe it's families and living arrangements, or if you were to search by families and living arrangements, or even children, you should be able to at least pull up those tables and then be able to scroll through the tables to find the answers. Are there any other calls?
Our next question comes from Olivia Winslow. Your line is now open.
Thank you. I noticed in your discussion of the new geography labels, I did not see place in that. I cover an area in Long Island, New York that has 2 counties and 292 hamlets and villages, so I need the subsets under the counties eventually. So what is the new equivalent to place?
So you'd still be able to find place going to 160, or you could go to, here I can go to.
When you say go to 160, is that a table number?
No, I'm sorry. Let me go to, let me back out of this and go to census.gov, data.census.gov. So you could go to the advanced search, go to geography. You're looking for place data. What I was saying was that 160. So if you scroll down, that's just the general place.
Oh, I see. Place within a state.
Right.
All right. It's further down than it used to be.
It is, and it's alphabetized. I mean, not alphabetized. It's by the code. You can also take that off, and if you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see place from there. But if you use 160 and you're sure of that, then that's probably the easiest way to do, is to go through the summary levels.
All right.
Or the summary level codes. Yep.
All right. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Our next question comes from Mike Snyder. Your line is now open.
Hi, thanks a lot for the presentation. It's been very helpful. I just had a question about historic data. I know on FactFinder it wasn't always the easiest to find, but where would you find, say, data from before 2000 or 1990 on the new site?
So that's something that we're hoping to eventually have. So we're taking everything that AFF2 had and migrating it over to the API. I know that that wasn't necessarily the case when there was that movement over from AFF1 to AFF2 and we lost the 1990 data. Our API has some data in from 1990, but it's not the full suite package. But I think once we have migrated AFF, I think that we then have to see what we have available and what we can put into the API, because we know that people are very interested in historic data, especially things like 1990 census.
Our next question comes from Mayan Silver. Your line is now open.
Hi, I'm actually calling with basically no experience with census data and census.gov, and my newsroom is trying to figure out how to work this kind of stuff. And so I'm wondering if there's any possibility of having someone from census.gov come and give like a presentation, or if there's an expert in the area that can come give us a presentation. Because right now I'm even on like the tables with these selected filters, and I can't figure out how to you know, get an actual table. Like, I have a lot of questions about just basics, and I'm wondering where we would find the information.
Okay, so we could probably circle back with the operator. We have data dissemination specialists that would be great locally to be able to help you. And then from there, we also have, you know, online resources and that type of thing.
Okay, so the data dissemination, could I just email in and we could set something up for someone to come and give a presentation or something?
Sure. The number is, let me just give you the number. It's 1-800 Ask Data.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Our next question comes from Jawad Sullivan. Your line is now open.
Hi, I work for Commerce Department, and as you know, we use the comparison with the civilian labor force for the mission critical occupations. So I was wondering, in the past I've used American FactFinder tool to see, for example, for general attorneys, how in par we are with the civilian labor force. So my question is, but the requirements in the American FactFinder, not the requirements, but the descriptions for occupations were fairly generic in the new data, data tables, or in the new reports. Are they being further modified to capture more relevant occupations? Like comparison to the government occupations, let's say, I don't know, let's say IT Series 2210 or maybe management analysts, they're fairly, like there are no bachelor's degree requirement or things like that, but in the government it is required. So are they further modified and refined?
Well,
or?
You know what, that sounds like something that would be perfect for our industry and occupation branch. We can, if you actually want to send an email to cedsci.feedback@census.gov, we'll give you the direct line and email to that branch, and they can give you it directly.
Could you repeat the email, please?
Sorry, cedsci.feedback, FEEDBACK, @census.gov.
CED feed. Sorry, repeat one more.
Right, CEDSCI.
F like Frank.
Let me actually show you on the site. Are you looking at our current slide? It's this right here.
Yes, I got it. Thank you.
Feedback, absolutely.
Our next question comes from William Brushup. Your line is now open.
Thank you. I'm wondering about the effect of this change on my tribal area. Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians has sites in 9 counties. Is this going to help us find those total numbers, or how is this going to affect? What's the best way to go about finding results?
So with my tribal area, nothing would change. That data, that application pulls from our Census API, and so you would just continue to access the data through that tool if that's what you're most comfortable doing.
Okay. Well, what if I'm not comfortable with the results? I mean, it's showing way lower numbers than our tribal population.
Okay, so that would be, again, if you could, we'd have to send you to the subject matter in those areas to be able to discuss that with them.
Okay.
I don't have that information on me right now. Again, if you sent it to that sedside.feedback, we'll find who you need to speak to and send it to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And one correction I wanted to make, I'm so sorry, I gave you the wrong telephone number. It's 1-844-275-3282. So it's 844-ASK-DATA for the caller about the media training for our data dissemination specialist. So sorry about that.
Our next question comes from Bob Scattermill. Your line is now open.
Thank you for the presentation. There's been a lot of good updates to the system. This is more of a feedback comment rather than question, and has to do with the labeling, the year of estimates for the ACS. I notice consistently, the Census Bureau has always taught us to refer to multi-year estimates as period estimates. Yet the labeling on tables for 5-year estimates always references the most current year. So I really think it's important for users, particularly those who aren't necessarily as comfortable with understanding what 5-year estimates are, to change that labeling and for the Census Bureau to kind of follow their own advice and label the years as the period for 5-year estimates rather than just the single end year of the period.
No, that makes a lot of sense. We'll definitely circle back and give that feedback to our data providers who send us that metadata that way, and we'll let them know their concern. Thank you.
Thank you. The universe on those tables always does show the 5-year period, but in the drop downs, whenever you're selecting year and that other sorts of formats, that's where I'm most concerned about it.
Okay, that it just shows that last year. Okay, we'll definitely take that back. Thank you.
Our next question comes from Marian Rodriguez. Your line is now open.
Yeah, so I had a question in regards to the share function in the new portal. Previously in AFF, you could provide a bookmark and it would kind of link to the table. I was just kind of curious if that functionality is going to be retained. And also you had mentioned that that even though you're kind of adjusting the tables, that when you download it, it'll still be it'll still provide all the data without necessarily the customization. Is there going to be a way for that to be retained if you are sharing it a bookmark for a particular data set?
So yes, so the basic share function, if you go, you should be able to cut and paste the URL directly from the top. But we also have more information on page 6 of our FAQs that really kind of drill down and show how those URLs are created, and that might help you a little that way.
Okay, so it's on page 6. All right.
Yeah, if you don't mind. We could go over it. It's a lot. But if you have questions, please send an email at the sedside.feedback.
Okay, will do.
Yeah, thanks.
Our next question comes from Janelle. Your line is now open.
Hi, thank you very much for this view of the new, I didn't realize there was going to be a new website. And you said that the FactFinder was still going to be live for a little while longer. The main thing that I go look for every year as of July 1st is population for certain counties in Louisiana. So there are two different ways now that I'll be able to find that information and copy and paste to share that with my supervisor?
Well, so the Population Estimates Program releases their data on census.gov as well as that they have been doing on AFF, so they'll continue to release off census.gov.
Okay, and that'll be coming out July 1st?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much. Mm-hmm.
Our next question comes from Linda. Your line is now open.
Hi, thank you. This is great. So I oftentimes do a guided search for the B16001 language table for various counties, and I'm able to access 162. So my first part of the question is, will that still be called the same way, or is there going to be another way of accessing that?
Of B16001, so those table IDs will not change unless the data provider changes them themselves. And in that case, I think that they send some updates from you, but we don't need to change for the site at all. We're just displaying the data the way they've been producing it.
Perfect, that's helpful. Then another thing that I wanted to make is a comment. I know, like, for people from South Asia, there are like 10 different Indian languages or whatever, but for Chinese, there's only one language, and I wonder if there's a plan to change that. It would be really helpful if we could, and have more Chinese languages.
I actually don't know that information, but I can get you the name and number of the language area that could answer your question directly. If you would, if you'd send an email with your question to sedsci.feedback, I can put you in the right hands.
Tell me that email again.
It's the sedsci.feedback. It's CEDSCI.feedback@census.gov. It's on the
okay,
it's what you're viewing right now.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Our next question comes from participant did not record their name. Your line is now open. Okay, our next question comes from Sydney Beatty. Your line is now open.
I was just wondering what levels of geography are currently available in data.census.gov as far as the actual data availability.
So we have all of the geographies that are needed for ACS 5-year, as well as what were being used for 2010 decennial.
So, but you were saying earlier that not all the levels are available, and when I search for like census tract or county within place, for example, with county within place, all I can get is the counties. And if I look for census tract, or sorry, other way around, if I look for county within place, all I get is places, and if I look for census tract, all I get is counties.
So is it possible that you have it selected down to maybe a survey or a program?
So, like, I just cleared my query. I'm in data.census.gov. I select county within place. I scroll to my state, and then the only results that come up are places with nothing else selected.
Okay. We'll have to look into that if you don't mind. And if you send us an email, we can work with you offline.
Okay.
Our next question comes from Demjean. Your line is now open. Our next question comes from Andy Piper. Your line is now open.
Hi, thanks for the information and for taking my call. So I think you answered this maybe earlier from another caller, but so there's no plan to have the population estimate information added in the future?
So yes, we're interested in adding the population estimates. We're working with them on, they have to have a new delivery system to get into our Census API and then into data.census.gov. So we're working with them and then we'll circle back with everyone when we know when we'll have a release of them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our next question comes from Katina Jones. Your line is now open.
Hi, thank you very much for this webinar. I have a quick question. In American FactFinder, I used to be able to build queries and then save those queries to come back to them later. Is that an option in data.census.gov?
So that's part of how we do share and how we build those URLs. So, and I hate to just send it to page 6. We could have another webinar for kind of a walkthrough on this, but page 6 shows you, and those FAQs show you how to build a query, and that should help you with those kinds of things that you were able to do in AFF.
And maybe I should clarify. I would choose like several census tracts, so I guess it's not really building a query. It's building like the geography that I needed.
Right. The same. Yeah. That.
Okay.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Good. Thanks.
Our next question comes from Kara Donnell. Your line is now open.
Thank you. Hi. I was late signing into the webinar. Please forgive me if you've answered this. So I'm trying to get statistical information in my state regarding the number of widows in the state, in the counties, specifically in southern Nevada and Las Vegas and Henderson and Boulder City. And I signed up a while ago for a bunch of emails to come my way to gather as much information, but I think I overwhelmed myself, and now I don't know which one is actually going to give me that information. And then hearing you say that things are being redone anyway, should I just scratch all of those and start over again? And then I do have a part 2, and that would be where you all get your information from to begin with.
So we get our information directly from the data providers. So there is no difference between what was delivered to AFF and what is being delivered to our API, and then what comes out on data.census.gov. It all comes from the tabulations that the data providers and how they define the tables and the different crosses. So that's where we get our information from. We're not the subject matter experts on it, and that's why we've been sending people who ask more specific questions about those data-related questions. For your question about information about the number of widows, you would just go to our topics in that advanced search. Go under topics. It's housed under families and living arrangements. And then
there's a called house. What house?
Under topics, there's a topic called families and living arrangements. And then under that is marital status and marital history, and that's where you would find that data.
Marital status and marital history. Okay, and is that still under, because I've heard so many different websites here and emails, I'm not quite sure, and I don't know anything. I'm not that computer literate. So census.gov is still census.gov, is that correct?
It is. It's census.gov is still there. What this is a preview platform of what we're trying to build is an enterprise, kind of a building, basically, if a lack of a better word, a search, a powerful search that could house both individual estimates, but then also those individual web pages and that type of thing. So eventually, what we're building on data.census.gov will integrate with census.gov, And so when you go in, you wouldn't know a difference. It should be very seamless. On census.gov, you would go in and do your search, and you would be able to find, if you did that on marital status, a search on marital status, you'd be able to get the web pages and information on the how they define and the methodology of marital status, and then also the estimates and the tables and that type of thing.
All right, and then that number that you gave out to somebody who called and said that she also didn't know that much about it and would like some, I think, more personal training, and that you would have somebody come out to help. How do I contact them?
We have data dissemination specialists that are local across the United States, and that number is 1-844, and then it's ASK Data, D-A-T-A.
All right. All right. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it very much.
You're welcome.
Our next question comes from Stacy Mikowski. Your line is now open.
Okay, hello. I appreciated the presentation. I learned so much. My question that I would like to add is for an app on the phone. Is that something that might be considered in the future?
So we're working on making sure that the website can be viewed not only on a desktop but also on a mobile device. But as far as an actual app, I don't think so, but it should be able to, you should be able to use your internet to get data.census.gov.
Okay, got it.
Great.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Our next question comes from Sue. Your line is now open.
Hi, thank you very much for your presentation. It was very helpful, educating me on, how to use the database through the census.gov. So my question is related to race and ethnicity. So, I'm on the website. I'm looking for like a Middle Eastern category. So, and when I was in the field, I've been asked by community partners if you could create, the separate category for Middle Eastern, because I'm not seeing it. I think they can, belong to white or Asian, because Asian is such a broad term to include everyone in, the vast area. So I was wondering if there can be more detailed the categories of like Asian population, more specifically Middle Eastern.
Right. So we're not a part of any decisions on what's defined as race and ethnicity, but those, I can definitely direct you to those people if you'd like to give comments to that. But a secondary is that we only have for our detailed race and population data, we only have the ACS 1 year, so it's a very limited list of things that are available. We don't have a lot of the bigger products that have a lot more of those individual races and ancestry, but we do have Middle Eastern data under Ancestry for ACS. So you might want to check that, and that was under Population and People. And then click on Ancestry, and you should be able to, there's a lot of things grayed out because, again, of those population thresholds. But there are some Middle Eastern data in there.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
We currently have no questions in queue at the time.
Okay, great. Well, I wanted to show you one last thing. We do have upcoming webinars. Next Wednesday, there's using the Census API with ACS data. And then August, we'll have another one of these data.census.gov updates of our latest code release. And then we're working with those data dissemination specialists who run the Census Academy series of webinars and trainings to include data.census.gov information. So check those out, and we hope to have some more of those webinars available for you soon. Okay, that's all I have if there are no more questions.
have one more question. Your line is now open. You did not record your name.
Yes, thank you for the seminar. I missed the webinar for the SIPP for income and poverty. Will there be another one, or is there a way I can request a copy of that?
I'm not sure. I think that you could find out more information under our webinars section of census.gov.
Okay. Well, I had missed it, so it's about the data collection and measures.
Well, typically we do record those webinars, so I'm assuming that they would be available if you check the link for Census Academy. If you look right here, there I have a link of census.gov/data/academy webinar. They should be able to help you. You should be able to find it.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. One last thing, if you would like to take an evaluation of the webinar, we'd be delighted to hear what you have to say.
We currently have no questions in queue.
All right, well, thank you, operator. We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you for your participation in today's conference. You may disconnect at this time.